I'm searching the web for the latest gaming news. Searching GameZillaMedia.com. Downloading headlines.
Alexander, what about this monster story of yours?
Download complete.
We want to congratulate the Switch. They came out and announced their year 2, their official year 2 numbers, which was a total. We're not going to just talk about just year 2. The total in their 2 years of the Switch being out, 34.74 million units sold. And the reason why that is a big deal is because it officially outsold the lifetime sales of the Nintendo 64. So, the Nintendo 64 sold 32.93 million units in its lifetime. The Switch has now moved itself above that, and it's done so in 2 years.
It's crazy.
The Nintendo 64, which had a run of 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Was it 95 or 96 it hit the States?
It
was 95. We'll call it 95.
GameCube came out in 01. 64 came out in 96, so that's 5 years.
Okay.
5 years, yeah. So anyways, that's very impressive. We knew it was doing well, but that was just another landmark that it passed, and it kind of got me thinking. We don't need to spend a ton of time, but I did the math. If it kept its average pace right now, at its 4-year lifespan, we'd be looking at 69.48 million units, which would technically put it above the original NES, just below the 3DS.
Wow.
And not much above it at that point, but it would put itself above the Super Nintendo, the Xbox One, the NES, and everything that it had already passed, like the 64, the Sega Genesis, the original Xbox, GameCube, Wii U, and of course we can get down into like the Vita and other stuff that was failure. But currently, the record sits PlayStation 2, 155 million units, Nintendo DS, 154 million units, and then the Game Boy Color, 118 million units. Those are your top 3. After that is the original PlayStation at 102 and the Wii at 101. Now, if we look at a 6-year lifespan of this Switch, which is slightly past that 5-year cycle that we're looking at, you'd be at 100 again only at their current pace that they're running. You'd be at 104.22 million systems, which would then place it just above the original PlayStation, sitting it in 4th place all time.
Wow, crazy.
So those numbers, when you consider the fact that they are going to be coming out with a Nintendo Switch Mini and a Nintendo Switch Pro, Nintendo's not talking about it, but we're pretty damn sure this is happening. Like, you can expect that this is going to be that hot spot. Like, they've had really good numbers the first 2 years, but the Switch is going to continue to sell because Nintendo will continue to push these games that people want, and things like Pokemon at the end of this year are going to move a ton of systems.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you're playing this angle that PlayStation and Xbox have already shown is successful in the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, getting people that already have a Switch to buy another Switch. That's the key, right? So I believe, and this comes down to what I want to see what Deadite thinks. I believe the Nintendo Switch, when it's said and done, will sit in the top 3 of all-time systems sold, which means it will have to sell more than 118 million units. But that will make it the number 2 handheld device by Nintendo. The DS would still have it beat at 154 million, and I just have a hard time feeling that the Switch has enough time left in its cycle to have that happen.
So you're saying it's going to sit top 3? I don't think it's going to get there.
You don't think it'll get there?
No, I think because I think the gaming industry is changing enough with all the stuff we're seeing about streaming coming up, and unless Nintendo has a solution to be part of that, I think that's going to hurt them. I think you're going to see, since we're seeing a shift in the industry in the next 2 to 3 years here, I think that could cause the sale of the Switch to slow a little bit.
So you're saying because they don't have that Game Pass option or whatever, where I could pay a monthly fee and just play games without having to buy a cartridge or pay per
at
title.
high quality also. You know what I mean? Like we're assuming that Stadia is going to work really well. We're assuming that what's it,
xCloud.
xCloud. We're assuming xCloud's going to work really well, So unless Nintendo is part of one of those services or has a solution similar, I think it's going to cause the system to slow over its life.
I mean, here's my thing about this. Like, I have high hopes for xCloud and Strata and stuff like that, but or Stadia, sorry. But my concern is we sit at a company that we work at every day that is a tech company. I mean, they're to some extent, and we have a hard time playing Rocket League online, let alone streaming the game via online.
Yeah.
Like, that's still a cartridge in your system. It's still downloaded to my system. We're not talking about we need an internet connection to even play the game. So I don't, I mean, give it in 3 years, who knows where we'll be, but in 3 years, the Switch will also be 5 years old, and it'll be at the end of its life. So if the Switch, which is supposed to come out with potentially 1 to 2 new versions this year, before Stadia takes hold of anything, before xCloud is even launched, before any of that, you're talking, they've done what, 16 million, 17 million systems per year roughly. Like, this year, this third year for the Switch could be that year where they break 20, 25, maybe even 30 million Switches, because you're going to sell your 16, 17 million new. And then you're going to take that 34 million that's already established, and you're going to convert a huge chunk of them when you release a pro version that produces graphics similar to the PS4 on the go.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, I'm going to buy one. You're waiting for it. That's what you're holding out for.
I am actively holding out for one because I was hoping it'd be released before Pokemon, so my wife would have the Switch we currently own, and that would be her full-time Switch, and then I would be able to upgrade to the Pro. I'm not an upgrader either. I have not one time ever upgraded my system, but with this one I want to.
But here's the interesting thing. How many opportunities when it came to the name Nintendo have you had the ability to be an upgrader?
Yeah.
Like, yes, you've had like the DS to a 3DS, but that was more of
that was a new system.
That's a new system.
But I didn't DS Lite. I didn't go DSi or DSi XL.
Yeah, that's true.
I never went for the Wii Mini. I don't know if you even would consider that an upgrade, because it's not really an upgrade. Yeah. It's just a sideways. It's a parallel.
Nintendo hasn't really had that ability to sit there and say, hey, here's a PlayStation 4, here's a PlayStation 4 Pro, and here's a giant leap in graphics and stuff. But here we do have that because mobile gaming is advancing at insane speeds. They're finding ways where they're going to be able to take this little device and do some better things with it. And it's already great. It's going to be only better.
They have the new overclock, the new 8.0 update that came out this week. Did you hear about that?
No.
You can now overclock it from like 1 gigahertz to 1.7 gigahertz.
Oh, okay.
And so it's cutting down the load times in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, nice.
So, something that would take, let's say, 19 seconds to go from one spawn point to another is down to like 7 seconds.
Nice. And that's just firmware.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I think they're set up this year with, especially having Pokemon at the end of the year, they are set up for probably their biggest year yet for the Switch, putting them right in the middle of their life cycle. And I don't, 118 million, it's hard. It's going to be hard. I'm not saying that. But if you can come out of year 3 and you're already sitting at, let's say, 70 million, and you got 2 years to go, maybe stretch it for a third year because you refreshed with the Pro Series. You don't necessarily need a brand new system. I don't know. And we've already talked about the facelifts, these weird mid-life cycle upgrades that extend the overall life cycle of that generation.
I think if the mini unit within
that too,
a couple of years of its launch gets to the sub $200 price point, I think that can make a big difference, because that's one of the reasons the DS was so successful is like you eventually got it for like $80, you know, like you can buy a 2DS for between $80 and $100, and that's the right price point to get it to kids.
And that's the advantage of Nintendo right now, right? You got that mini, you got the Pro, you have a standard, you have a family, and the parents buy the kid the mini, the dad and the mom want the Pro. You have a standard one that sits in the house because you already bought it. Like, this is that system that all of a sudden you have multiple of them in your household because they're affordable and they're Nintendo, so everyone can enjoy them of all age groups. I think we're gonna see that. Which when you look at the top here, you got PS2 from 2000, the DS from 04, the Game Boy from 89, the Game Boy Color from 98, the PlayStation original from 94. It takes you to get to 5th place to sit there and say the Nintendo Wii at 2000 from 2006. Okay, we're 13 years old at this point. And then finally the PlayStation 4. Okay, so when you look at the top of that world, you're right. It is very old. We haven't had a more recent system contend for these top sales. Besides the PlayStation 4, it's done a very good job. It's about to hit that 100 million mark. It's going to move in there. But you're talking about the PlayStation 4 really right now living around that 1 year life. It's already on its way out. Sony's already reported a decline in sales, and it's only going to get worse as they get closer and they announce the PS5 here in a couple months. People aren't going to invest into that platform the way they were. So you're looking at the PlayStation 4 is going to fall short. It's still I predict going to be the best PlayStation of all. Or sorry, not the best PlayStation because I keep forgetting about PS2. So it's not going to be the best PlayStation. It's going to be number 2, and the Switch really has that opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see. But nice work passing up the Nintendo 64 and moving its way up the ranks.